This is the last session of our week, and it's been awesome. And we're going to end it with the wonderful Liz Metz, also from Frederick County Public Schools in Maryland. And she is going to talk to us about getting instant and getting active. And she also said, bring a piece of paper, scrap piece of paper if you have one, correct, Liz?
Yeah, any kind of paper. Perfect. Are we ready to get ready then? Ready to get active, I should say. I heard Emily told everybody to give me a hard time today, so I'm expecting that. I'm expecting a lot of bantering, a lot of, jibing through comments, through unmuting. So feel free to be active verbally and get involved. But we are going to start today with a little activity. So any kind of paper. In class, we usually use newspapers, but you can have a square piece of paper. So we are going to do a little movement today. So if you have it, you're mostly going to be able to just hear me in the beginning, but I'd like you to try it if you are able. But with your piece of paper, just imagine as the kids come into the gym, you either ask them to bring a piece of paper or you have some ready, scrap paper, newspapers, anything like that. They're going to take this piece of paper, and if you can join me, hopefully I can't see you, so I'm hoping that some of you are doing this with me. With your paper, if I was in kindergarten, we're going to work on some prepositions. So I'd like you to take this piece of paper and put it over your head. Now I'd like you to take the piece of paper and put it behind you. Now I'd like you to take the piece of paper and put it beside you. You can even specify left and right if you're at a level of students who you think can do that. What I'd like you to do is put the piece of paper under you. So if everybody's following along, that paper is under your feet. I can't see it, but I'm trusting you. Now what I would like you to do is take a step behind your paper. Okay, now I'd like you to step over your paper. Now I'd like you to jump behind your paper. I'm going to scoot back just a little bit. Now, if you have your younger ages, you can start bringing in your locomotor skills. So if you have the space and you are able to, I like to see if you can jump in a circle around your paper. So depending on how big your paper is, you could be going bigger. Now I'd like you to go in the other direction, jumping around it. Now we could do galloping. I'd like to see you gallop around your paper. There we go. Now in the other direction. You could be teaching clockwise, counterclockwise with this. Now I'd like you to see you jump with both feet apart on both sides of the paper. Now I'd like to see you bring your feet back behind your paper. Now we're going to practice bell jumps. We're going to jump in front and behind our paper. So in front, behind. Teaching our bell jump. We could teach our skier jump, side to side. And if you don't want your students jumping on the paper, you can have them doing it behind them, side to side, back to the middle, all sorts of things. Now what I like you to do, and this is something that if we were doing this in class, we do a lot more. We go through all the locomotor skills. We'd be doing more prepositions. We'd be having students hold it above and kids could be going under each other's. But then you can continue that activity. Now what I would like you to do is pick up your paper and I want you to ball it together. Now we have a ball, no money. Everybody has their own. It's great during COVID time. You don't have to share. Now you're going to take that paper and you're going to practice tossing it and catching it up and down. See if you can get 5 tosses. Excellent. Now you're going to try going from one hand to the other. Excellent. You could also have them practice if they didn't have it so scrunched up, ask them to make it a bigger ball and discuss how that's going to change the flight of the ball. What's it going to do? If you have big newspapers, you're now going to ask them to drop it on the ground and you're going to dribble between your feet, keeping that ball close between your left and your right. You could have them practice dribbling it around different objects. You could also have them practice kicking it to a partner. If you're in a striking unit, now we can start practicing striking with our open palm. Have them pick it up and try tapping it and catching it. Or how many times can you tap your ball right now? The opportunities and activities with a simple piece of paper are endless. It's instant, it's free, it's COVID safe. You don't have to share unless you're starting to do activities with each other, with partners. You can integrate it into almost any type of unit. It can be a pre-activity set induction for them if you're doing striking. And you can do it over and over again. So you might do it 1 month with a soccer unit. The next month you bring it back in, you do it with a striking unit. or you do it with your locomotor unit, all those types of things. So what I want you to do is keep that paper. We're going to use it again. And everybody, hopefully you joined in on me, with me. Go ahead and have a seat back together. And that was our instant activity, get you a little bit warmed up. So we went ahead and did that. So now I'm going to introduce myself. As I said before, my name is Liz Metz. I am from Frederick County Public Schools. You met my colleague, Emily Klauser, on Monday. We are both adapted physical education teacher specialists. It's been my position for the last 4 years. Prior to that, I did elementary and high school physical education and health for about 13 years. It has been a joy getting to meet all the different people, especially my Virginia friends. But Emily and I have loved this position because we have learned so much from other people. And I'm really hoping that you get to learn some new activities from me today. The activities that I present to you today are not my own creation. Some of them are, some of them I've taken things and twisted it into new things. The newspaper activity we learned from Nashville, Shape America a few years ago. Some of these activities you might have seen on Twitter or on Facebook, lots of different ways, but often I find that until I see it, I don't know it. And once I see it, I can take it and I can manipulate it and make it my own type of activity and integrate it in various ways within the classroom. So hopefully you get some of that today. You're also going to get a little bit of adapted. So all of these activities, I'm just going to show you how they go. And then we are going to have an opportunity to talk about how to modify them and adapt them to meet the needs of all of your students. And I'm sure you've seen this quote. It's been shared all over, but I love it. Diversity is being invited to the party. Inclusion is being asked to dance. Your students naturally are brought into class. So there's the diversity. They all have equal opportunities and access to physical education, but being able to get them included into the game and really actively participating and feeling a part of it is the inclusion aspect. And that's where we have to be creative. And I know Emily talked a little bit about busting open your box and figuring out how to integrate IEP goals. We're not going to talk about IEP goals. We're just going to talk about ways to modify these activities to make sure they can meet the needs of all of your students. So just to recap, what we just did was the newspaper activities, and there's some videos here. I'm not going to play them for you since you just got to see me do it, but there's so many different things that you can do beyond what I shared. But everybody gets their own type of paper. It could be different types of paper, newspapers, and there's so many different things you can do. I didn't review, oh, somebody said there's an issue with my boxes. Can you see it right now? I know, Jennifer, I'm reading it. It says that we were testing it before, but when I went to present mode, it covered up, but we can try it again. Would that be okay with everyone if we tried it? Let's see if maybe if I don't move my mouse, it will go away. How about that? Let's
Give it a try.
Let's give it a try. I think you can see most of it right now.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
Okay. So you can do balance poses. So we know with those kindergartners, first grades, we have to do our 4, 3, 2 point balance poses. We have to transfer weight. This is an easy, simple way to practice that. As I said earlier, you could do some of the locomotor activities and skills all around the paper. You can practice your yoga poses with the paper. Prepositions are very big. We do a lot of that with our kindergarten and first grade, making sure they can travel safely around objects, so they need to know how to move. And then as I showed you, you can turn it into a ball and do all sorts of activities. So you can practice your catching, your tossing, you can kick it, toss it, strike it, all sorts of crazy things. And at the end, you can talk about recycling and either have them recycle it or use it for a different activity. I've had people who use the loose leaf paper prior to the beginning of the activity. You have the students write something inside, something that has to do with your unit or maybe your health content that you be teaching or your cognitive aspect. And then at the end, if they still have their own, or if you have them all trade, they open it up and they read what's on it. So you can really bring in a lot of cross-curricular activities with a simple piece of paper. Does anybody have any questions about the newspaper activity?
I did have one question. Is there any safety concern with the paper? Like, has anybody slipped on it?
No, we haven't had that issue with it. Usually when we do the balancing, that's a static activity, not dynamic. And so any of our dynamic stuff we're doing around the paper so they don't slip and fall. That is a concern, and I think you do need to address it prior to the start of the activity and let them know that. But then even for like your friends who you know are going to have a little bit more of a safety concern, you could then just throw out a poly spot instead of the paper if you want at that point. And then when it comes time to ball it up, give them the paper and allow them to ball it up at that point in time. But that's a great question.
Thank you.
Yeah. Anybody else? All right, we're going to use that ball and we're going to play another game. And this is the first time I've done this virtually. I think it's going to work and I'm hoping it works. So then if we ever have to go through this virtual world again, we have an instant activity that we can do. But I'm going to explain it first. We're going to do beanbag grab. In a school, you would have a partner and you'd have a beanbag between the two people. And they would be doing an exercise. So this is a great way to practice and bring in your types of exercises, whether you're doing cardio, muscular endurance, muscular strength, flexibility. They're going to perform the exercise until you use your stop signal, whether you're somebody who does the music stops, the whistle, or you yell, grab it. I'm going to say grab it today. I'm not going to put on music. And then whoever gets the beanbag and they grab it first, they are going to do a specific exercise, or you could have them wave it in the air and or they can toss and catch until the partner that did not grab it goes and finds somebody new. When they find somebody new, both students sit down and that shows the teacher that they're ready to move on. And you would then start the music again. For the purpose of today, when I stop sharing my screen in a moment, you're going to pick anybody on the screen to look at. You just look at anybody. Hopefully you can adjust if possible so people can at least see your ball in your screen. And as we are just sitting here chit-chatting, we're all going to be doing trunk twists. And when you hear me say grab it, you have to watch that same person on your screen. You're gonna have to play honestly. When I say grab it, whoever grabs it first between you and the person that you are watching, you would be the winner, they would be defeated, and then you would be getting a new partner. We're not going to do any of the exercises like we would in the gym. You're just going to look at somebody else and I'm going to say, all right, trunk twists, and we're going to practice grabbing it. And we're going to see if that works. Any questions before we begin? Hopefully everybody can see. Thumbs up if you can see. Yes, go ahead, Margaret.
I can find the raise your hand. So I've thought about trying to figure out some of this stuff in Teams. Mm-hmm. But the boxes all move,
Mm-hmm. So I don't do Teams. So what I would suggest is, and we've had that before where I had a new teacher. She was like, okay, Joseph, you're going to be watching Randall, and Leslie, you're going to be watching Barron. But like you said, they move. They might not be in the same order of the screen that you're seeing. So for the purposes of being virtual, you just pick your own partner. They might be watching somebody completely different than you are. And that's okay. It's all about just getting the movement and enjoying it. And whoever wins in that moment wins in that moment.
Could you pick like somebody that's wearing the same color as you? So then as a teacher, you have an idea, all the oranges are looking and all the greens.
You could try that. I don't know, depending on how big, like right now I have 5 slides of people.
So yeah, that's right. I forgot about that.
No, it's in all honesty, you're just playing for fun at this point. If you win, you win. If you don't, you don't. Let's try and see what happens. So the fact that we can mostly, you're just going to be watching a face. And when I say grab it, I want you to grab it and show it in front of your face. And if the person you're watching, so Jillian, you and me, hopefully you can see Jillian. So we're doing this. When I say grab it, I got it first compared to me and Jillian. If you wanted to make your students then, if you were the winner, you're going to raise the roof. If you didn't, you're going to do some boxing moves until the teacher says, all right, start your trunk twist. Okay, so let's try it. Everybody should have their paper in front of them. Find somebody on your screen. Doesn't matter who. Here we go. Trunk twist. Everybody's doing it. Everybody's doing it. Good. And grab it. All right. Give me a thumbs up if you think you beat the person that you were watching. Awesome. All right, put your thing down. If you have your hands up, that way your students aren't cheating also, because that kid could, there's going to be that kid that has it in the hand the whole time. So we're doing our trunk twist. Find somebody new.
James.
I'm watching Robert. All right, Robert.
James.
And grab it. Good job. All right, let's try it one more time. Find somebody new. Hands up.
Yvonne.
All right, and grab it. Good job. Excellent. Oh, somebody's got a pig. I like that, Amy. So that's a way you can do it virtually, but you can also do it in the gym, and you can make your exercises bigger. You can bring them into whatever cognitive lesson you're doing. If you are working on muscular endurance, and everybody's gonna be doing muscular endurance activities. And no matter who wins or loses, you're constantly rotating the students. You can have them COVID safe also, if you still are gonna have 6 feet or whatever it is in the future, and you have them in their boxes and they're just spread out between each other, but they can still rotate and play with each other. And if you don't want them sharing bean bags, then just like we're doing now, we each have our own bean bag, and whoever pulls it up first wins. So that's up to you how you want to do that. All right, let me go ahead and share my screen again so you can see our next activity.
I have a quick question about that one.
Yes.
If they were sharing the bean bag, then they take it, like whoever wins takes it with them, then they have to find a partner who doesn't have a bean bag? Or
what I would say is the person who wins stays there. They stay sitting on the ground, and then the person who didn't win would go and find somebody who's sitting. And then when you see two people sitting next to each other, that means they're done. They have a new partner. And so whoever's walking around has to find somebody without a partner sitting with them. And so they're traveling without the beanbag. The person who won that round, that challenge, stays where they are, and they keep their beanbag. If you're going to have everybody with their own beanbag, then they just travel with it. Does that make sense? Hopefully.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you.
Yeah. All right. Oops, it's asking me questions. There we go. So our next game is called Scatter. And unfortunately, I don't have a video for this, but it is by far one of my favorite activities. I had a gym that had our squares were painted, not every square, but it was where our students would sit, and we had different colors. So what would happen is I would create 4 large squares, so 4 corners, and then I would put a poly spot in the middle. So you need at least 5 students to play this game. You could actually have more, and you create some more corners and some more geometric shapes, but you don't need anything really. Once the students know it, you need no equipment. You have 4 students in the 4 corners, and you have 1 person in the middle, and that is the person who's going to yell scatter. And when they are ready, they yell the word scatter, and everybody has to move to a new corner. So you have 4 people trying to travel to a new corner, but then you have that 5th person in the middle who's trying to steal one of those corners. So there's always going to be somebody who's left out or doesn't get there in time. That person who doesn't get there in time then becomes the new scatter caller. And they go to the middle, they wait till everybody's ready, and they yell scatter, everybody moves again. There's lots of ways to manipulate this game though. You can change the way in which the students have to move. You could have extra people in a waiting line. So instead of, if you don't make it to a corner, instead of becoming the scatter person, you would then go to the end of the line and a new person would come into the scatter. You could also have students doing exercises in between on those squares before you yell scatter. If you have a student, and this is often what would happen, I'd have a student who was just a little bit slower or couldn't quite move the way everybody else could move, and they would never get to a corner. Even if they were the scatter caller, they could never get to a corner before anybody else. So you take that poly spot for them that would normally be directly in the center, giving equal distance, and you move it slightly closer to a corner. And now all of the other students, that's okay. They can go from that same corner also, but that means that student is at least always going to get to a corner one time through. They might not get to the next corner, but at least they get from that scatter spot to a corner. You can also make your squares smaller, and you can make them larger depending on how far you want the students to move. And then you can also create some new star points. So you can, it can just be, you know, a never ending way to manipulate and modify this activity for your students. But my students would be out in the hallway as they came in, say we're playing scatter, get to a square, and that would be that. That's all I needed to say. They'd walk in, they get to a square. If they were in the middle spot, then we'd start moving. And it's a constant activity. After a while, you can make, if you're in the middle, all right, you're going to move to the next scatter box. So then at least you're changing up who the students are participating with and being around. Oh, I've seen some people call it 3, 2, 1 switch. Excellent. That's the great thing about sharing things like this is we're going to find out that so many of us play similar things with new names. And sometimes switching up the names each year can make it a little bit more intriguing to our students. Any questions with scatter? Okay. Our next activity is called Gotcha. And I'm going to try to play this. Hopefully you can see it. It's going to give us a...
All right, final warm-up game before we get into it. Can I get everybody in a nice, tight circle? No more paper, scissors, rock. That is the end of it. All right, we are friends now, guys. We know each other. Let's take another step in. All right, this game is called Gotcha. I'm sure you've played this one before. Really simple concept, fantastic game. With your right hand, it is going out in front of your partner to the right. Left index finger in their palm. All right, when I yell out go, you need to slam down. I'm going to grab Maddie's there, and I need to whip away like that before Joe gets me. Now, I don't want to see any cups. I hate cups. I want a plate. All right? Are you ready? Oh, oldest trick in the book, guys. Come on. Go! Oh, points, few points, well done. All right, just to keep it even, if you're right, left-handed, we're going to go both ways. So left hand in front of your partner to your left. Right index finger in their palm. You ready? Oh, go! Oh,
I pulled that down.
all right. That was like level 1. Well done. If you'd come to Carl's session today, gamification, you've gone past the first level. We're on to level 2 now. All right. This time, tiny little step in front. With your right hand, it is going 2 across. All right. Your left index finger is going there. Now, Joe has got a lovely face. I don't want to see people go like that, all right? So be really careful. Have we figured that out? Guys, we're a great group. That is awesome. Ready? Set. Go!
All right, I'm going to stop it there. Hopefully you were able to understand that. So in a circle, you're going to be around with one palm out and one finger. And your goal is the other person's finger is going to be above you. When the teacher says, gotcha, you have to grab it. Now, this is not a COVID-friendly one if you're not allowed to be this close together, obviously. But if you want, you can also do things like have a ball. So instead of your finger being on their hand, you can have a ball, you can have a stick, whatever. So the person's grabbing the other thing. You don't have to do large activities, large groups. It can be partners or small groups as well. But it is obviously not super fitness-based, but it is a great group game. It's fun, it's exciting. You can go back and forth, quick paced, and you can change it. You can also add in some balance activities. So you have to do it balancing on one foot, or you have to do it backwards, all the backs facing each other, all sorts of random ways that you can do it. It's a better activity for your older students, not your younger ones. It's a little bit difficult to explain to your older students, but it's a fun, quick thing if you have a few minutes and you need something to plug in, or you want to do it at the beginning before going outside, anything like that. That is gotcha. Let me move this on. All right, we have probably played a ton. Let me pause that, excuse me, of rock, paper, scissors, shoot. These are, the next few are brand new activities that we just started to get a handle of and implement, but we've played so many rock, paper, scissors. I'm going to share some of my favorite ones, but this one was involved with basketball, which I love. So this is a short video off of Twitter. Coach Harrington, I think he might be from Virginia. Would be lovely if he was in this group at the moment. But I just want to show it to you. And then I have a diagram after this to kind of give you a little bit more of an explanation. And he does it a little bit differently than I have my rules set up, but I just wanted to share it with you since it is a nice video to be able to see. So here we go.
Score, good job. Now give the ball to them and you better run back. Alex, run back. Go, carry on, go.
Okay, so in that regards, they didn't actually score or shoot, but if you notice, there was 2 teams. There was a ball that started in the middle, and they were rock, paper, scissoring each other. If you won the rock, paper, scissors, you took the ball and you went and challenged the next person on that team. The person who did win went to the end of their line. And so you would keep rock, paper, scissoring. If at one point you lose the ball and it goes to that team, that person would take the ball and kind of go in the other direction where your teammates are participating, or waiting, I should say. Here's a diagram. So if the ball starts here in the middle, you rock, paper, scissors. If purple wins, purple's going to come and challenge the next blue person. If purple keeps winning, they'll challenge the next blue person. And if they win that one, they're going to shoot the ball, hopefully into the basket. As you can see, I put up some different types of basketballs. So you have some variation. You can have some taller ones, some shorter ones, and even some basketball hoops. I would also encourage different types of balls, depending on what students you have in the class. Oh, I like it. Somebody played it with the chicken. That would make it a lot of fun. And I also encourage you to do more than just rock, paper, scissors with your hands. Has anybody done it with their feet? Anybody ever done rock, paper, scissors with their feet?
Yes.
Yes, excellent. It's a lot more fitness involved for the ability of you not being able to see my feet. Those of you who have not done it, you're going to jump in front of the other person, rock, paper, scissors, and when you do shoot, if your feet are spread apart, that's paper. If your feet are front and back, those are scissors. And if your feet are together, that is rock. So yeah, somebody put it in there. So it's a way to get them more active and get more movement in and still play rock, paper, scissors. People also call it different things other than rock, paper, scissors. Alaska mosquito, sand and bear. Love it. So lots of really cool creative ways for you to integrate. But I loved this one as a relay activity that allows our students to have fitness, but also to practice their shooting skills. And you can also incorporate dribbling in there if you'd like as well, depending on how far and how big of the distance between the students. Bearfish mosquito, love it. That's a great idea. All right, let's keep rolling. Our next one is called head, knees, feet, and cone. We're going to watch it, and then we're going to try to do this one on the screen as well together.
Head, knees, feet, knees, cone.
So they absolutely love that one. Some ways to do it in the gym is you could each have a cone, or you could have a single cone, kind of like what we talked about, beanbag grab, very similar thing. You could also have the students step backwards if they win, making it a little bit more difficult. You could also at the end, in between each round, have them do an exercise, and then you could even have them rotate. So you could have one line move down and you get the next one, but everybody's playing, everybody's enjoying. Yeah, so you make them sing it. So we're going to try that here. I'm going to stop sharing just because, you know, we might be virtual, but we do need to be active. You could use that ball again. I have a water bottle, whatever you prefer, but I'm going to say it. So I'm going to scoot back. You kind of need to scoot back a little bit so you can access your knees and your feet. Just please don't bang your head on your desk in front of you. That would not be fun. All right, here we go. Head, shoulders, knees, toes, knees, head, cone. Did you beat your person? Maybe find somebody new. So people who say you can't teach PE virtually and do activities is wrong. Hopefully you're not one of them. We can do our movement even virtually, but hopefully we never have to do it virtually again. Here we go. Head, shoulders, knees, head, shoulders, knees, cone. There we go. Excellent. One more time. I like 3. I like to do them in 3s. Here we go. Head, toes, head, toes, head, cone. Excellent. This is also a great way, even though we're sitting in the gym, it's a fun way to do it, especially if you have students who have poor balance or you have wheelchair bound students. This is a great way. You could have some students standing, some students at desks, and have them rotate around. So then everybody gets a chance to play at the desk. Some students get to have a chance standing up, all sorts of different ways. All right, let's get back to my screen. Oh, it keeps always asking me if I want to let you all share, which I would if you'd want to. All right. Another one that I have seen done, and I liked it personally myself, if I can get it to move forward, is
Head, knees,
plank roll relay. We're going to watch the video here. This is one version. It was a quick one. Let's watch it one more time. Okay. Pause. So this is, there's 2 teams here. You can have as many teams as necessary. You at least need to have 4 or 5 people in this, in a team. What you do is you have 2 students who are the tossers and the rollers, and then the rest of the students are in a plank position, push-up position, head to toe. And so the object is for the first 2 people to roll the ball or whatever object under the first person, and then they catch it, move to the next person and roll it. As soon as the object is rolled under that student's body, they have to get up real quick and go to the end of the line. So the ball is moving back and forth as the students are moving in a backwards direction. You can do forwards, however you want, from one end of the gym to the other, wherever you're starting and stopping the line are. The thing that I love about this is it's a great exercise, a great warm up for any activity that you're starting. So here they're getting ready to start wiffle ball. Or I mean, badminton, excuse me. They're getting ready to start badminton. So they're rolling a birdie underneath, which the birdie kind of goes all different crazy wonky ways, making it a little bit more difficult to catch. You could do it with a soccer ball at the beginning of your soccer unit. You could do it at the beginning of your football unit. Whatever it is that you're doing, take that object and that's what needs to be rolled back and forth. When you get to the end, then you can rotate who the tossers are and you can switch up the teams. It brings in so many different aspects of the fitness components. It gets your cardio going. It's fast paced. All you need is a simple object. Almost everybody can do this activity. If you have friends who can't do it, who can't get down in the ground, they could be standing. If they're in a wheelchair, they could be sitting with a noodle out. So that's like their body going underneath the noodle. And then you can have, if they have an SDIA or student support, they could be traveling and moving to the next area. But what I would suggest with that group is they don't have to go as far because it is going to take a little bit longer for them to move to the next position, but it's fun for them to move to the next position versus just being stationary. They want to be a part of that moving unit. So you need to figure out a way to even the playing field in regards to the distance versus the time to get them involved. Any questions with this one? Oh yeah, we see some people, the planker. Okay, you're confused with the planker. So if this is the first person, here's the second person planking, the balls or objects going to be rolled underneath of them as the tossers go and to roll it under that person, this individual is going to come behind and get behind them. So it's just kind of like a constant moving back and forth until you get to the end of the line. Does that help? Hopefully, Kim, that makes it a little bit better. Any questions with this activity? I wish I could demonstrate it for you. So if you see in the picture of this video, the girl in the black here, she was in front of the boy that's down. They already rolled it under her. So she's running around quickly to become the next person planking behind the boy in the shirt. Let's watch it another time and see. Running behind him. Hopefully that
So
helps.
is it actually 4 people on the team? I guess that's where I'm a little bit confused on how to do it with 3.
It could be, you couldn't do 3. You would at least need 4 because you have 2 people rolling and then you have 1 person planking and then the next person behind them. So you at least need 4 people, but you could do more. If you do more, you're going to have a longer line of people planking, and they have to hold it longer before they run to the end of the line. But you at least need 4 people to play it. I'm sure there's ways that you could, if you only had 3, then the roller would have to roll it, run around, pick it up, and then roll it back and forth. So it would require the roller to actually do more back and forth as well. So you can make it work with 3. It's just easier 4 or more students.
And did you say the first roller starts standing up or the first roller starts in a plank to roll the ball?
No, the rollers are going to stay standing the whole time. So the rollers are just moving down on the outside of the planked line and rolling back and forth between the people who are planking.
Oh, okay. So they're not part of the plank group.
Correct.
Okay, got it.
Yep. I'm sure we could figure out a way to make them part of it if we wanted to, but it's a lot easier if you just have separate rollers and separate plankers. But then once the relay is concluded, you can switch up who the rollers are and who the plankers are. All great questions though. Thank you. All right, let's see if it's gonna play it again. Technology. All right, here's a new one. It's called Pong Bounce. This was done with a little group of, I'm assuming, first or second graders. It's really going to be a team activity. It's also a lot of hand-eye coordination. But essentially, the little boy here in the red has a ping pong ball, and the two boys across from them have the dome cones with the holes in the middle. And the object is for the little boy in the red, he's going to bounce the ball or toss it. Excuse me, and it's going to hopefully go in the dome cone of the one student, and they're letting it roll in and bounce out into the next cone and then into the next cone. They might be utterly unsuccessful, but they might have fun. You could also have more students involved or just one student. It could be a group of two. But let me go ahead and show you what this looks like. See it one more time. It goes by very quickly. So it went through all three cones before it went to the bottom. It might take multiple tries. My suggestion is give them a set number of how many opportunities you have to toss the ball to get it into the cones. And if you are successful, that's wonderful. If not, then you rotate. Otherwise, you're going to have that little boy in the red who never gets it in and is just going and going and going. And the other students in the group are not going to get an opportunity to bounce. You can start it with just two students back and forth. You can make it a larger group. It's up to you how many you'd like to have involved with this. Baron, is that a good ooh or is that a not so good ooh? What do you think of this activity? Has anybody tried this before? It's interesting. Okay. I'd like to see if you try it. Tag us so we can see it next year and see how these are. You could use a cup, yep, to try to capture it in the cup, or even have the cup at the bottom. So if it goes through the cones with the hole, and then the bottom is the red cup or whatever cup you want to capture it. What kids you can do it with, yep. With the wiffle ball, I like that. All great ideas. All right. So one thing I just want to stop for a moment and talk about is all of these activities, and you can find so many more on Twitter and Facebook and go into other people's gyms. And some people make it look so easy. And it can be very easy, but I think the commonality, and you probably have talked about this possibly earlier in the week, or you talk about it at your in-services, the way to make these instant activities work and be highly effective and reduce the time that you lose transitioning and teaching is to have best practices in place and make sure that we're doing the things that our profession encourages us to do as appropriate practices. And these are just a few things that when I go into gyms, or things that I even struggled with early on as a teacher, but they're always good reminders, no matter if we're in year 1 or year 30. But we need to really establish our learning environment. And coming back from a year of COVID and virtual learning, we're going to have a really great opportunity at the beginning of next school year to set up our classes and our teaching environments for the best possible success of our students and of our teaching. One thing that we need to make sure we're doing is fair and consistent classroom management that encourages positive behavior and student responsibility, and making sure that we're equal between the students in the class, between each classes, and between each grade level, because they're going to learn as they go through your grade levels, especially elementary students. You know, they're going to have you as kindergarten, but then you can't be treating them one way, and then the next year in first grade, they have all this freedom. Because it'll probably spiral and devolve, and we'll have behavior problems on our hand. We want areas that our teachers are promoting exercise for its contribution to a healthy lifestyle, not as a punishment. And also, hopefully you can have me. Class size consistency. And what I mean with that isn't in relationship to other classes in the school, but what I mean is in relationship to all the high school or middle school teachers joining your classes together. So instead of me taking my class of 40 out and my co-teacher taking their class and doing 40, we're going to stick all 80 kids together and play a giant game of something while the two of us supervise that. We're given classes for a specific reason to teach that. If it was best practice to have a class of 80, then they would give us 80 students, but it's really hard to manage. We already know it's hard to manage 40, 30 students, but then when we bring them all together on a regular basis is when we're losing that best practices of teaching our class. Doesn't mean it's not going to happen. Fridays were always a fun day or once a month, however it is that you decide with your team, but having the smaller class and teaching your class is really what is in our profession as the best practices versus pulling everybody together and always doing the same thing all the time. Some of the red ones, and this is directly off of our Shape America appropriate practices for physical education. These are just a few that when I go into some of my colleagues' gyms, I'm seeing in the positive and I'm seeing not. And I'm seeing it not, and I'm looking at it now more so through the lens of my adapted students, such as the third one down. We have a lot of friends at some of our schools who are very just habitual of, okay, we're all going to go out and we're going to run 4 laps around whatever the field is. Well, we always know that Johnny is always going to be first because he is the fastest runner. So he's done super quick and he stands and he might get into trouble or he might just stand there. Where we've got Alex over here who is just not a physically fit kid. And Alex tries to run those 4 laps, but then the whole class is finishing and they're waiting for 5 more minutes for Alex to finish his last lap. Instead of doing that, where we always know Johnny's going to be first, Alex is always going to be last, stop that everybody runs 4 laps and maybe everybody runs 5 minutes. So then everybody's starting at the same time, everybody's stopping at the same time. Alex isn't feeling, singled out as being the last one, but that way Alex can also identify if he's improving. So he ran 5 minutes 3 weeks ago and got 2.5 laps. Well, now he's 5 minutes and he's got a whole 3 laps. So you can really identify improvement and success a lot better because they're not feeling pinpointed or highlighted for being last when everybody's doing the same thing. So that's something that I really like that I've seen a lot of my teachers shift to be able to make it a little bit better for our student success and for their social emotional opportunities in your class. Bottom line, rules, routines, and expectations. Do them at the beginning. Don't get into your class units and, dive in deep without having them established and without having your classes show that they know what you want them to do. I remember my student teacher when I was student teaching, and then what I did from what I learned from her going forward is if I had that class that just couldn't do what I needed them to do, those simple expectations, they spent more time practicing them at the beginning of the year while the other class moved on. And that made it harder on me in the beginning because then I had the same grade level. And I remember specifically a first grade class, 3 first grade classes were rocking and rolling with the calendar of units. And this one first grade class was still coming in, practicing how to line up, how to sit down, how to do warm up, how to clean up, all of that. And they didn't get into the real units for 2 additional weeks after. But it was 2 weeks. It was 2 weeks of a little bit more difficulty for me. And then by that time, they knew my expectations, they could do it. And the rest of the year was so much smoother because they had it down. So it was harder for 2 weeks, but it made the rest of the year so much better by really ensuring that they were able to demonstrate their knowledge of my rules and expectations. If you haven't read the Shape America's appropriate instructional practices guidelines, which I doubt we do that on a yearly basis, I do suggest it because there are things in there that have occurred over our teaching experience. Those of us who've been in it longer or shorter, they change. And so we might be doing something that we got used to. And then all of a sudden you're going to look on that thing and be like, oh man, this is considered inappropriate practices. And I might need to change it. And that is done through research and observing and figuring out what really are the best things for our students. So we need to make sure as professionals that we do review that on occasion to make sure we're not doing some of those inappropriate things. Not that they're super inappropriate, but you know what I mean. Okay, our next activity, we're going to talk about rock, paper, scissors. There are so many ways to do it. I kind of mentioned it before. These are just a few of my favorite rock, paper, scissor Olympics. This is when we have 3 different levels. We have bronze, silver, and gold. All of the students start in bronze. They can challenge anybody they want. When I first started doing this, I was still doing hands, but then I moved it to the feet. If you win a challenge, you move up to the next. So if I won in bronze, I would get to move into the center of the gym, which is silver, and I have it divided using cones. And I find somebody else who is a silver winner, and I challenge them. If I win in silver, I would then move on to gold, and I would find somebody there and I challenge them in gold. I would have to keep winning in gold. I always made it 5 wins. If you did 5 wins, go out and get a drink of water, come back, and you start back over at silver. If at any point you lose, so if I made it to silver and I lost, I have to go back to bronze. If I made it to gold, but I lost in gold, I go back to silver. And if I lose at silver, I go back to bronze. So you just move one option back. Let's go ahead and see a little bit of this so you can see it in action.
Here's the rock, paper, scissors Olympics. That's the bronze level. Then they move out here to silver. They win at silver. And they move all the way down to the gold level at the very end of the gym. Just continuous running here. Quick team building exercise. People take a chance to move around and have a good time.
All right, so that is it in the middle school. I do it at elementary. I did it starting about 1st, 2nd grade when they can really learn it. And then you can play it all the way to high school. It's a silly little game, but it's a great fitness activity. You can make them in between moving back or moving forward along whatever line. You can see here they didn't have any specific line to distinguish the different levels, but they could have to stop there and do an exercise before they moved down or moved up. So then you're incorporating more activity. Some different options are hand, feet, fish, and that's just a different way of doing it that you can click on that when you have access to this and see just the different ways. For my students that might not be able to physically do it, we have these printed out and laminated on cards, and they can point to it or they could say it even. So that's one of my rock, paper, scissors. My next one is rock, paper, scissors, tag. I love this one as well. Let's go ahead and we'll start with watching it. Okay, so in this one, you can see they have a little bit of space between them. They're lined up on 2 lines. They're doing rock, paper, scissors, watching each other. And in this round, if you're the winner, you then have to chase the person who you defeated. So you have to do it. You have to instantly realize who won and who lost and then chase to the wall. You could do it the other way. If you are the winner, you're being chased. However you want to do that. We're going to actually play it here. So I'm going, I love some movement. So in our regards now, let me get back to my screen so I can see all of you. It is definitely weird chatting with you all, but not actually getting to see you. Oops, I need to stop sharing. That would be helpful. Okay, so once again, with like all of our other activities, we're going to do rock, paper, scissors. I'm going to say it, so we're all doing it at the same rock, paper, scissors, shoot. If you win, you've got to raise the roof 3 times. If you did not win, you're going to do 3 fake ghost punches, and then we'll get ready again. Are we ready? Everybody got your hands up? Make sure we can see it so that whoever's challenging you can see you. All right, here we go. Rock, paper, scissors, shoot. All right, so we might both look like we're winning. I tied my person, so I didn't have to do anything. Ha. All right, hands back. Let's try it 3 times. Ready? Rock, paper, scissors, shoot. Oh, I won. Excellent. One more time. Hands up. Rock, paper, scissors, shoot. I tied. There we go. Excellent. So an easy way to play it virtually. I do really encourage, though, playing it with your feet. It's a lot of fun, and it wears your kids out if you have not tried it that way yet. One more rock, paper, scissors, shoot. This is always a fun one. If I can get it to go, hold on here. Oh, we do it with math facts. I love that, Noelle. That's a great way to do it. Bring in those cross-curricular activities is perfect. All right, another one is rock, paper, scissors, plank, where you're going to challenge a student and you've got to have that 3-point stance. You got to be able to hold it and have some great muscular endurance. Let's watch these girls play it. So super simple. They're just moving around, finding another person to challenge. But if you notice, some people were in the plank position. One person had their knee down, one person was laying on the ground. So you have those options of what best meets the needs of your students, how they can physically play or not play. But it is a great activity to do and build that muscular endurance. It's a super easy warm up. You need nothing except your hands. Any questions with any of these rock, paper, scissors activities? All right. I'm not going to go over the next ones because just based on time, I want to talk a little bit more about some other things, but you're going to have access to all of these. I'm just going to tell you what they are as we move forward. We do have a rock, paper, scissors relay, which involves the 2 teams coming together in a caterpillar-like type of activity with your hula hoops. You'll also have access to the cone flipping relay, where you're traveling in teams, trying to flip the cone, all of them before moving back. That's a super simple one to get going. I do love this noodle relay. I've seen this in my inclusive classes a lot, but you need lots of noodles and they have to travel walking over the noodles. And just kind of like that plank relay earlier, we have to move to the end of the line. You have people who are taking the noodles and moving it to the end so that student can walk, and it's just like a moving ladder. And then you change who is the holder and who's traveling across. We also have information in here for colored dice tag. That's a lot of fun. It's a little bit more involved, but it's a great activity. We have 4 circle, which is kind of like 4 square, but with hula hoops and making it bigger as you're more successful. So it makes it a lot harder, but it's a lot of fun. And we were going to take a water break. I'll give us, let's see, it's 11:23. Let's take 2 minutes to get a water break. If you need to run to the bathroom real quick, do so, and then come back. We're going to talk a little bit about perming up these activities to make sure that they are accessible to all of your students with all of their needs. So go ahead and take 2 minutes and we'll come back and finish up. If you have any questions, you can also type them in or unmute yourself while we take a break.
I think your buddy Emily might be on.
I thought I saw her. Em, are you here? She's got to work this week, unfortunately.
Aw.
So she might be. I popped in with her for like a few minutes at the very beginning. I was sitting in my car at the beach. I was like, let me see if she's on. She probably has me muted. She has to hear me talk all the time.
I think she's gone now. She was in here.
Yeah. She's working on getting all of our extended school years going, making sure we have all our teachers in place for that. So that's not been fun.
Do you have a big ESY program?
We do, and this is the first year we actually identified students for adapted PE at ESY. We have about, I'm going to say 6 or 7, but then we have a lot who are receiving recovery services or compensatory services from COVID. So
I bet there's a lot of that.
Mm-hmm. We only had 1 student access service last year.
No.
Yeah. So.
My gosh.
It's a lot, but we're only doing the students who are going to ESY, and then the other students will have an opportunity for that recovery come the fall when they're back. All right. I don't know why I stopped that. All right, I want to talk about Permit Up, and Emily, I think, touched on this briefly on Monday. I believe I saw it on some of her slides. Permit Up is something that we came up with a few years ago as a fun way to remember how to modify every activity to meet the needs of all of your students. So if you can remember perm it up when you're creating and planning, these are the 4 just simple concepts of what can I change or how can I modify a simple thing to help a student be more successful. So P is for playing field and number of players. E is the equipment that you're using. R are the rules by which you play. And M is movement concepts and patterns. And what I mean by that is for playing field or number of players, here are all different ways in which you can change the playing field. Lowering volleyball nets. Your bases are closer together. Longer for students who are more capable. Changing the type of goals, having safe zone, more boundaries, surface area, fewer distractions, all different ways that you can change. You can have less students on a team or more students. You could be playing in tandem with somebody. E, equipment, lots of adaptive equipment out there, but it could be more that it's just a lighter ball. It could be a different ball that's easier to grip. Smaller or larger. You could be using specific colors, especially our students with visual impairments. You need something with contrast. If you have a blue gym and all of your equipment is blue, it might be very hard for that student to see it moving. So you need to get something bright yellow, things like that. Rules. We sometimes, those of us who are set in our ways, or we've always played something the same way and this is how it's played, which I was like that a lot. We just sometimes don't even think, oh, I can change the rules to this. I could change it for everybody. I could change it for a small group or an even individual, give them more turns or no tags. You might not score. You might have to take 2 steps and freeze or do a game with no outs. All sorts of different ways to change the rules. Like when I was talking about scatter, that one student's scatter spot is going to be a little bit closer to the corner than the others, or you can have everybody a little bit closer. Little tiny things like that can make a huge difference in our students' success. The last one, movement patterns. If you have a student who is slow to move and can't get it going, well, instead of letting all of the classmates around them run, you might tell everybody else they have to skip or gallop. And that might make the speed more controlled and more equal between them. You might have students moving in different directions or in completely different locomotor skills. They might all be crawling. If you have a student in a wheelchair, your students might be crab walking. All sorts of different types of ways that you can make them move differently to equal the playing field. Here's an example. So we played beanbag grab at the beginning. So if I was to perm up that activity, I might do it instead of on the gym floor, I might do it on desks, or I might use court lines. And that way we have one student might be closer than the others. I might change the equipment and have if a student just doesn't know where it is, I might put the beanbag on the poly spot. I might use newspaper balls. I might use a scarf or a foam ball, depending on what they're able to grab and how they're able to hold it. You might have some students have to grab it with a non-dominant hand or touch it with different fingers, or even have to grab it with their feet and the other students grabbing it with their hand. And then you have your different levels for your movement patterns or pathways, depending on what you're going to do. If they're lined up farther apart, or one student's closer to the beanbag, this student might have to skip to get the beanbag or move backwards to get the beanbag, all sorts of different things. The yellow is for students who are physically in a wheelchair or in a walker. What can you do to help them? You could put everybody on scooters. You could attach a noodle or a fake hand to a wheelchair. And if they just touch the beanbag first, then they're the winner of that one. So that's an example of how to perm it up. Another way, an example for scatter, how to perm up and scatter, you would reduce or increase the square size. You could create a rectangle and add more people. You could have more than one scatter caller. So one would call, but 2 people would then be claiming spots, and change distances between the spots. You could help students visually see it by putting down poly spots or floor tape or cones. The rules you could change by having a line outside. Instead of going to the scatter box, you go to the end of the line and a new student comes in, exercise between rounds, and then change your locomotor movements, or everybody plays on scooters. Those are some examples. There's another example for gotcha. I'm not going to review that, but I wanted to show that to you because I want to give you all an opportunity to try to perm up a game. So I shared and went over those 4 new activities, and I don't know who caught on, but on most of the screens towards the end, there was a yellow box that said perm it up. And that's because all of those activities have already been permed up and you'll have access to that. We have not permed up these 4 activities. So the rock, paper, scissors, shooting the basketball, the head, knees, toes, and cone, the plank roll relay activity, or the Pong Bounce. So I believe I have help here, an intern, and they're going to split you into 4 breakout rooms. Jillian, do you know if those rooms are numbered?
I don't.
Okay.
Usually they're breakout one. It should be 1 through 4. Katie,
Okay.
are you on here?
Liz, this is Katie. I was randomly assigned. Did you want me to change that?
No, that's totally fine. I'm just going to say, if those of you who end up in breakout room 1, you're going to be perming up the rock, paper, scissors, shoot activity. If you are in breakout room 2, you're going to be perming up the head, nose, head, knees. I said it wrong. Head, knees, toes, and cone. Breakout room 3 is going to be doing the plank roll relay, and the 4th group is going to be doing Pong Bounce. I'm going to go ahead and put into the chat box a link of a blank copy of that permit up. Let me copy that and give it to you. And then we're going to put you into breakout rooms, and you're going to do that together. So in that breakout room, obviously somebody's going to have to take charge and type into it. And everybody, please unmute yourselves in the breakout rooms and discuss it. We're going to give you about 5 to 8 minutes to perm it up. As you saw, it doesn't have to be extensive, just a few ideas under each of those areas. And then we will share those and add them to the PowerPoint. So then you will have every activity that you've seen today. We'll have modifications and adaptations for you to access and to refer back to if you choose to use it. So hopefully that works. Did everybody get that? Oh no, I did it only to Katie. I apologize.
She dropped it into everyone.
Oh.
Yep, it should be there. Thank you,
Okay.
Katie.
All right, go ahead, Katie, if you can, and put them into breakout rooms. Perfect.
Oh, wow. Okay.
All right, I think we're all back. I was in room 2 and it was really good to hear. I hope everybody else had some good conversation in their rooms as well. If you were the person who recorded and you are able to share that, if you will link it and put it into the chat box, then we will all have the link. And then R and W. R is for rules, and and M is for movement patterns or movement concepts. Who did room 1? Who would like to go first with room 1?
I have it, and I'm working on finding where my chat went. Hold on. Here it is. All right, I linked it. Wait, you just want me to go over what we discussed?
Yeah, and I will pull it up here and I'll share so everybody can see it, if that's okay.
Yeah. My camera's broke. I'm not trying to be hiding.
We lose Liz. We may have lost her. Courtney, how about I go ahead and share my screen? I think I have it pulled up here, and you can go ahead and share while we wait for Liz. Log back in.
Oh, work.
I'm still here.
Oh, there you are.
I got you on my phone. I don't know why I got kicked off the the computer, but I'm working on it.
Do you want me to go ahead and share my screen and Courtney can go over?
Yeah, could you do that while I get this worked out? Thank you.
No problem. Are you all able to see my screen?
Yep.
Okay.
Okay, so we discussed for the playing field to lower the hoop, have different versions to fit the students' needs. So maybe if they had a disability where they couldn't use their arms for basketball, they could change it to soccer or whatever is going to fit the student needs. And then change the distance of the travel. You know, did that need to be shortened? For the equipment, we would modify the equipment. We could use bigger goals or hoops or smaller, lighter or bigger balls, and then make sure that the color doesn't interfere with, you know, the background like you were saying before. For the rules, give them multiple opportunities to score. So not just making the basket. So maybe they can score. We added this, I'm kind of jumping around, but points for getting to the shot line. And then maybe they can get 2 points if they make the shot. And then some visuals to assist. Maybe for those nonverbal students, they could point to what they were, you know, what they're shooting. And then for movement straight back and forth, you can change the levels. You can make it go to the right or the left. And then you can ask them to do different locomotor movements that they prefer and are successful with. And group one, if I'm missing anything, please jump in.
That's excellent. That was great work. Any questions by anybody for that? Awesome. Can my group two go ahead? I think Sarah, you're the recorder for group two.
I was recording, so it was hard to like pay attention and write everything at the same time, but I'll do my best. So I think we talked about, as far as the P, with having movement between opposing players so that you're not stuck playing the same person all the time for head, toes, knees, and cones. So that maybe you're not stuck playing a more successful player every single time. We also talked about changing up the equipment. So instead of cones, you could use cards or colors or raising of hand instead of using a cone, because maybe not everyone can reach it. Like if you're in a wheelchair, you might not be able to reach where the cone is located. We talked about making sure that the rules are so that the points go to the side of the gym, not to individual players or teams. And then we also talked about moving things, like instead of having the cone right next to you, that the cone is not in proximity, that you have to move somewhere else to get to the cone, just to kind of make it a little more challenging or to vary up. I don't know, did I get everything, everybody?
I think you did a nice job, and it was good conversation. And I think I heard a lot of you say that you felt like some of the answers could be manipulated into all of them, and that is very true. But I think the way that you all are doing it, even if your answer for your student is not here, seeing these things will help you start to think about how you can manipulate and change it, and then you'll be able to, I think, a little bit easier to figure out what you need to do to help those students in your class. So that was great. Somebody from group 3?
Hi, so we had the plank roll relay. So for P, we said that you could play on your knees or elbows or laying flat. You could do side planks. You could shorten, you could do like the short width of the gym or the long ways. You could have different groups have to go cover different distances. That could be another way to level out the playing field. For equipment, we said we could use mats, noodles, or larger equipment, something that's easier to see, easier to grab, keep track of. For R, we said for rules, extended time, having various distances is that the group needs to travel in order to be considered successful. And then you could also change the rollers during the activity. For movement, we had different ways that the kids could be moving down, from skipping grapevine, moving backwards, hopping, to get to the next position.
No, those are all great. And these are great ways to change it. I like that all. Thank you very much. And our last group, Pong Bounce. Who would like to share? Anybody?
I'll share. So for the Pong Bounce, we had for P, we wanted to change the amount of space so you could be closer. And then after so many successes, they can back up a step. We wanted to give safe zones, play music. When music stops, you could rotate. For E, we would have bigger targets, bigger balls, use like animals, like the chickens and stuff we talked about, sensory balls and custom equipment. We also talked about the sensory balls and the different equipment being good, just like the gen ed students as well. You want to give everybody that option because some of the other students might not feel comfortable with it too. So I think that was great because we talked about that a few days ago and we can use it again today. For R, we did like multiple bounces. We wanted to chunk rules, 3 tiers and progression, and active waiting and safe zones. Chunking rules is actually really big when we were talking about it because, you can say like 1 or 2 rules, have them play for a few minutes with the music playing, stop the music, give another rule, reiterate the 2 rules or the rule that you said before. So really just like kind of progressing on that, on the rules and working up to it and adapting if you need to. For M, we wanted to do pathways and directions, start at one end and work towards the next, low, medium, and high targets, people holding the cones and moving, balancing on one leg, and catching with a non-dominant hand. Like, so you could do so many catches with your with your dominant hand, and after you did so many, then you could switch. So that can just kind of help people to switch it up if they're progressing faster than other students.
Perfect. I love it. Those are all great ways to perm it up. So hopefully the term of perm it up, I used to have a really funky Bob Ross hat that if I would have been good, I would have brought that and worn it for you. But it's a silly term, but hopefully it sticks in your head as simple ways to always be able to modify something. So there really should never be a reason a student cannot participate in one of your activities, whether it's an instant activity or not. It applies to all activities. But just think about those simple ways of that you can change something to make it more equitable. And I really liked what you said there at the end. I believe that was Audrey that was talking about having all the students use the adapted equipment, or multiple groups using it, or rotating all your students through it. So it's not like, oh, here's Liz with her, adapted ball. She's the only one that gets to use it because she needs it. Allow 4 or 5 different people to use the adapted ball, or multiple groups, and then rotate through that so everybody feels comfortable. And then Liz, me, or whoever it is, doesn't feel like I'm always the one with something different. Bring those differences in and make them not so different. And then the students don't have any idea. So I'm really glad that you brought that up. And the chunking of the rules. That's a great way, especially for our friends who need repeated directions. Don't give them all those directions at once. Start and practice and then continue to add them in. So those are great points that you all brought up. That is all I have for you today. There's extra stuff in there that I didn't go over and a few extra links that you can peruse on your own. But I'd like to open it up for questions if anybody has any questions or would like to share. You have the hashtag #GetInstantGetActive. I would love to see if there's other things that you do that are your go-to instant activities. Take a video and add them on and do that hashtag so we can just have a collection of easy, quick things that we can do in our gyms. And usually it can be done with any level. So hopefully we have some multi-level teachers here. But any final questions before I turn it over? I do believe the ladies have some things they need to share with you since I wrapped up the week. But I'm really glad I got to join in from here. So thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Liz.
You're welcome.
Okay, if there's not any questions, Sheila and I just want to wrap things up. we've had a wonderful week, and Liz was a great ending to this week. Sheila dropped in all the forms. She labeled them Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. So if you need those are in the chat box. Earlier today, when you logged on before the second session, Sheila had a PowerPoint going with a ton of resources and links. That is in the drive under our last names if you need it. But real quick, I want to share a resource that we have found is awesome for adapted PE. Let me see if I can find it here. And it kind of ties into some of the stuff that we did this week. Let me move my, do you guys see black boxes on your screen as well? Try to minimize them. Okay, so this is called toolkit4pe.com. This was done by adapted physical educators and physical educators who found that they had this huge amount of resources and they wanted to share it. So these are designed by adapted PE teachers, and you can use them at your own, anytime you want. You can log in and go here. There are a ton of resources from lesson plans to positive behavioral supports. I want to show some of those because we talked a lot about that in our autism presentation today. So you can log in through Google, and then when you scroll down, or it'll ask you to log in through your Google account or your school account, you have all of these options. Here is positive behavioral supports. And so when you scroll down, it'll say, click here for behavior resources, and you click, and it takes you directly to this drive where they have collected a massive amount of resources: communication cards, choice boards, PE picture tokens, sensory kits. So these are all those things that Joy talked about this morning, as far as, and some of you chimed in about weight cards, visual timers, visual schedules. So all you have to do is double click on any of these, and you will see right here are a bunch of options. There are things that you can just view or look at that give you ideas. And there are also some that you can actually print out. Here's a choice board template. So you could print this out and put your visuals on it and laminate it. Put Velcro if you need it, so that they can pull off the choice that they want. Here are some actual pictures. Some of these are, like I said, a lot of this is done for you. If you don't have good visuals, you could just double click on this, pull it up, print it out, cut them out, laminate them, put them on there. It is endless. I mean, look at all of these activities. So there's a lot of that information there. You could, visual timers, I believe Joy talked about those this morning. Here's some options. There's also a lot of apps. I think they have listed on here apps you can use. Communication cards. Some of these are just videos on how they utilize the materials. So that's another great way. Here's raise your hand, stop. I mean, it's like I said, it's endless. I think somebody this morning mentioned talking cards or wait cards. So turn taking. Sometimes they have to wait to take their turn or turn in a card to speak if they're constantly interrupting your class.
Could you, oh, toolkit, okay, never mind.
Do you guys have any questions about that? That website, there you go. Thank you, Rob. I was just about to say, I'll drop it into the chat box, but it is listed on Sheila's PowerPoint that she had running this morning, along with a bunch of other resources. Thank you for dropping that in there, Rob.
Jillian, do you have our drive on your screen or no?
Yes, ma'am. Would you like me to share?
Yeah, just show them where things are again, because we've got.
Yes. So when you go in, I just want to make sure I'm sharing the right screen because I have a couple. Here we go. CTA 2021. Okay, so here is our drive. CTA 2021, make sure that's at the top. Sheila and I have a drive for each year, so we try to keep everything organized. Here are all the last names of everybody. Liz will send me hers, and I will slide that into her this afternoon. Everybody is labeled by their last name. So for example, if you just click on Jones and Lauer, here are all those PowerPoints that we used this week. Here's the resources for special education that I was just speaking about that has links to everything. Also on here, here's our resources tab. This is an important tab because this is where that IEP Goal Bank is. A lot of you gave us great feedback about that. That is there. Something I would like to say about that is it is very much, it's a great resource. And it really is meant to be like the skeleton of an IEP goal, because when you say IEP, it's individualized. So we don't throw that goal bank out there so you're just copying and pasting and throwing it in. You still need to individualize it for your student. So if Liz is my student and I want to do underhand rolling, you know, she may have certain components already, or she may be good at a target close by, or she can do the skill, but she can't hit the target. So we want to work on accuracy. So you want to tweak that goal to really meet the individualized abilities of that student, but it does give you a good format. It gives you the SMART format and it gives you the guidelines. Here are, we talked about these accommodations modification sheets. If you have students, and somebody asked this question about adapted PE teachers versus general PE, I think there's a mix of us that teach self-contained small group adapted PE. You have Liz, who maybe goes in and the general PE teachers. You may have an adapted PE teacher who comes into the general PE class and actually stays for the class with the student. These are great for students that attend general physical education and an adapted PE teacher can't be there all the time. I will get the lessons ahead of time. So they were doing a fishing unit, a game, and then I will list what the activities are coming up. And then I will have, when the class does this, the student will do this. And I'll just list some accommodations that can be made. So this actually can tie into Liz and Emily's perming it up, right? So that's where you're changing those rules and you're listing them. So if you're not able to be there for the general PE teacher, you can, I've given this to a PE teacher before and they've laminated it and just put it with their lessons on their clipboard, and then they have it accessible at all times. Oops, I knew that was going to happen. This is my, I can't see the top of my screen here. There we go. Okay, can you still see my drive here? And the last one is the modification sheet. This one is more really like the perming it up with the specific, this one, there was some fitness testing that they were doing. This was a secondary student, some secondary lessons.
We still see the fishing.
I knew that was gonna happen. Give me 1 second here. I can't click out of this unless I stop sharing my screen. Hold on. I'm using a second monitor that cuts off the top of my screen. So the other one is an accommodation sheet.
Thank you, Miss Andrea, for that compliment. We appreciate it.
She posted something in the chat.
So Jill, I wouldn't worry too much about going through.
Yeah, it's all in the resources.
Yeah, so just go there. And there's also, some of us were talking about Google is doing some updates and you can color code your folders and such. So I did put that. It's a Schitt's Creek reference. It's pretty funny, but it's very helpful. So I would go through that as well. The link for the drive again. Can you do that in the chat, Jill?
Yes, ma'am. Let me pull that up.
And just remember, you guys, the CTA will communicate with you in that original message you got. It had the schedule and the drive there. So you should be able to refer back to that. But I'll go ahead and put our email addresses in again. So you can get in touch with us if you get lost and you can't find anything.
I just put in the link to our drive again. And again, if for some reason you lose it or lose access to it, please just email us and we will certainly share it back with you.
Okay, so we're winding down. We'll stay on and answer any questions you might have, but go ahead, please, and fill out that last form for today. And we hope you guys have a fantastic summer, get some rest and rejuvenate. And thanks for being with us this week. We appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you guys so much. This was amazing.
Yes, truly well done and tons of information. Thank you.
Thanks, you guys. We appreciate the compliments.
Thank you.
If anyone has questions, go ahead and unmute. We're happy to stick around for a few minutes.